Let's take it back now to our Nasiphi Same, who joins us now live from Mont Vista in Cape Town. And you're there, Nasiphi, speaking to a professor of criminology. This is, of course, all looking at the law enforcement environment and what this moment means for the integrity of that institution.
Indeed, we are still in Cape Town getting those reactions ahead of President Ramaphosa's address this evening. I'm now joined by Prof Kinnes, who is from UCT's Center of Criminology. Thank you so much for your time. But looking at the allegations made by General Mkhwanazi just over a week ago, made serious allegations of breach in security, pointing the finger at Minister of Police, senior top officials. Would you say that this issue is deeply rooted? And also, is this the tip of the iceberg?
Yes, thank you, Nasiphi, for those questions. This is the tip of the iceberg. There's been several other allegations of corruption within the police. Here we have a commissioner that have directly opened up and spoken out against corruption in the senior echelons of the Department of Police and made allegations against the minister, against the judiciary, against members of parliament, and against other senior police officials. That announcement by General Mkhwanazi was unprecedented. Something like this has never happened. It's always been the public and civil society organizations that have spoken out against corruption. You have a senior leader of the SAPs making those allegations, self-same allegations.
Would you say that these allegations, or rather what do these allegations say about the oversight mechanism within police intelligence and the ministry itself? Has the system failed?
I don't think that the system has failed. I think the SAPs as an institution has been trying to claw back its independence, as it were, where it can do what it wants to. In this country, the police, because it's an armed force, it has the power over life and death. It is subject to civilian oversight and control. That's really critical. If it's not subject to civilian oversight and control with a budget of 120 billion rand, it can do whatever it wants to. Now, you know why the apartheid police failed? The apartheid police failed because it was dragged into the political realm. And it did the duties of political leaders. And you must say that, I must say that in 1993, after the Goldstone Commission findings, you must give it to F.W. de Klerk, because he retired 30 senior generals of the police. There was a Night of the Long Knives in 1993, and these generals were retired because the Goldstone Commission found that there was involvement of the police in political violence. We can go back there. We can go back to krachtdadigheid. If we leave the police on its own, it'll go back there. If you, in this crisis, General Mkhwanazi will either be dismissed or he'll become the commissioner. Because South Africa has to choose. What he's done is that he's created such an unprecedented crisis where the country has to choose, where the president has to choose, which is the correct way. And this puts the president in a very difficult position because he can't go, he can't make any right move here. So my proposal here is that the president must get rid of both of them. Even if the minister has asked for a leave of absence, it's not his place to be there anymore. He has lost public confidence and trust with these particular allegations. Similarly for General Mkhwanazi, he's undermined his own institution by going public. These allegations should have been investigated, and if there were members of the parliament, members of the judiciary, and the minister that was involved in corruption, and they have evidence, they should arrest them. That's the role of SAPs, not to execute people, but to arrest them and bring them before a court of law. And so that's the crisis that we're in.
Prof, if you speak of a crisis that we're currently in and SAPs with mounting or a number of allegations put forward, who then is appointed in an institution like the police that has all of these challenges, with the national eye looking at the new appointee possibly?
I'm going to say that whoever assumes the role of the Minister of Police must know the police intimately. somebody that knows the processes, the regulations, the law, and the culture of the police. And I want to put my head on the block, nobody's ever raised this, and say that if you want somebody to fix up the police, we need a complete review of the SAPs operations, of the SAPs national instructions, of the SAPs regulations. The model of policing has failed. And we need to restructure the senior echelons of the police throughout the country, throughout the provinces, and the basic unit of fighting crime must be beefed up, and that is the police station. I think the stations is a critical component of changing the police. When you come to changing the leadership of the police and the ministry, you have to have somebody that has spent 20 years understanding the police. A member of parliament on the portfolio committee on police, it takes on average about 3 years for them to understand the police. So I want to suggest, if you look at the track record of somebody like Peter Groenewald in correctional services, he's doing things within that department in a short space of time. You need somebody like him that has been on that committee for 25 or 28 years to run the police.
And I want to ask, I mean, you highlight or you zoom into the fact that we are in crisis mode. Are you saying, or rather would you say that we are facing a real security threat or political implosion in law enforcement?
I think we're facing an unprecedented political crisis in the police, because the police as an institution has politics. And the politics of the police is that they interfere in the civilian realm. And you have to make sure that there are checks and balances on the powers exercised by the police. And that is why, from a political perspective, there has to be oversight over the police to make sure they do the right thing. A member of the Defence Force, in terms of the laws of war, can only kill another soldier. Soldiers can only kill another soldier in uniform. The police can kill anybody in terms of the legislation. And those checks and balances has to be built in, and it has to be applied, and the oversight over the police, because of our history of policing in this country. We can never go back there. We can never go back where we kill suspects and say they had a bomb on them or they were on their way to commit a crime. That in a society that upholds the law can never stand. You've got to arrest suspects and take them to court. And you've got to win your case in court. And for that, you need the police to do proper investigations. We're not seeing that. So there is a significant crisis on the political field between minister and the police senior management. And we also have within the police competition, distrust, and investigations of police officers of their colleagues. And so this indicates that there's an unprecedented crisis, because now not only the country must choose, but also police officers, senior police officers must take a stand. Who do they support in all of this? And really, in our fragile democracy, we don't need this.
Looking at crime intelligence, allegations also leveled against that unit, would you say that, what are the risks rather when crime intelligence and policing get caught up in political power struggles or internal struggles, and what are the real life or real world challenges or dangers for ordinary South Africans?
Well, for ordinary South Africans, if crime intelligence is doing the bidding of a political leader, you are not going to find service delivery when it comes to the violent crimes and the organized crimes within the country. We are seeing that. We're seeing that particular impact in communities. A week ago, 16 people were shot in Mitchells Plain. We got the increase of mass killings throughout the country. And so the form of crime is changing, and it must be crime intelligence that is supposed to pick up those particular patterns and communicate it to the rest of the institution, so that the operational staff, the visible policing unit, the detectives can do something about it, and the National Commissioner. And so if they're unable to do that, it means that they're in the service of somebody else, but not in the service of the South African police. And the fact that you've got the entire leadership in court tells you that the Crime Intelligence Division must completely be restructured. And it must be taken over by individuals that have the a dedication and a commitment to the constitutional values of this particular democracy, and they must also have a commitment to the Police Act, and to make sure that they follow the procedures when it comes to the regulations, the standing orders of the South African Police Service.
Should South Africans be concerned about the future stability of SAPs and the broader justice system, listening to the allegations that were made on Sunday?
Yes, I think that's not an unreasonable expectation. I think South Africans are already concerned about the future and the stability of the country. When you have such fights in any country in the world, there are opportunistic third or fourth countries that become involved in the daily body politic of your country, and they can divide people as they've done in other countries. And so we must be very, very careful. A fledgling democracy, our interest as South Africans is to make sure we are peace-loving people. And we really want to see within the communities in Babaleki, in Umlazi, in Manenberg, in Bonteheuwel, in the Cape Flats, that we want to take our children to school in peace. The mothers who walk mustn't be afraid that they're going to be raped or attacked or robbed. And so if we can't make those particular guarantees to the general population, then there's something critically wrong with the policing services that we present. It's implausible to think that the police can do anything and disregard the public. And so I think there ought to be, in the restructured SAPs, a smaller leadership at the top. I think that the second-tier leadership of the institution must undergo a significant retraining in constitutional values. I think they must also undergo a significant, the detectives in particular, that's where the biggest investment must be, so that they can understand their mandate as detectives, and that the docket load that they carry ought to be changed. I think there must be significant recruitment or a significant reorganizing of the relationships between the community and police, because the community policing model has failed. It's failed. I think it's outlived its usefulness. We need a new model of interacting with the community. And you know what? It's the community organizations that has the information. Why is SAPS not taking this information? That is why you see the growth of vigilante organizations, because they've gone to SAPS, they've given them the information, they've done nothing about it. So when community organizations provide that particular information, SAPS must process it. But you don't see that. You don't see the station commissioners becoming closer to the community and working closely with the community. So SAPS must create a community relations division, and it must work in a more organized fashion with the communities.
Thank you so much, Prof. Kinnes there from UCT's Center of Criminology, giving us his thoughts on what has been happening in the country over a week ago, where we heard the allegations by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi.